Shalom, welcome to the Jewish View. My name is Rabbi Nachman Simon, and I'm with the Chabad House of Damar, together with my co-host Mark Ronich of Statewide News Service and jbiztechvalley.com. We have a very, very special guest with us, Mrs. Esti Simon. You're the co-director of Kingston, that's Kingston, Ontario in Canada, not Kingston, New York, Jewish Center. Esti, welcome to the Jewish View.
Yes, so you run the student center, the Chabad Student Center in Kingston.
That's right.
What is that like? What is it like dealing with the students on a regular basis, and how many students do you have who affiliate or identify as being Jewish?
So Queen's University, which is the main school that we deal with, there is also a second, there's a college also there that we have a little bit to do with. But in general, it's the university. They say there's about 1,300 undergrads, Jewish undergrads. And we're not in touch with all of them. Some of them are really not affiliated with their Judaism at all. But about 300 to 400 a year, we are connected with in some way. If it's through Facebook or through a
LinkedIn?
friend.
Do you do LinkedIn?
No.
Just Facebook?
Yeah,
Okay.
with the students we stick with Facebook.
Okay.
It's, all the events go through Facebook, all the messages, invites. Some students is as much as Facebook contact that we have with them. Others will come out to our on-campus events, like we give out latkes and donuts on Hanukkah, or we give out free menorahs. So to those events we get even some students who won't come actually into the Chabad House. But for Shabbat dinners and things like that, we get between about 50 and 100, depending on the week, students coming for a Shabbat dinner.
It's a lot of cooking.
Yes.
And you do it all.
All of it.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a...
Do you have, explain some of the different events that bring out kids? Again, like you say, it's not easy to have these Jewish students come. It's a nice percentage and it's nice work you're doing, but obviously you're probably looking for 100% participation and more and more. What are some of the events that are more successful that the kids like coming out to?
Right, so some kids love the study classes, but they tend to be small, sometimes because you're trying to fit them into the student schedules, and there's night classes and day classes, and everyone has a different schedule. So they're harder to get a big group, but the students who come are very, very committed, and we usually get about 8 students to each semester's class that will come, and there's a few a week. Between my husband, Rabbi Srilly, and myself, we cover about 4 classes a week. And bigger events would be the Shabbat dinners. That's really the, once a week that the students want to come out for good hot food, chicken soup with matzah balls. It's always a huge hit. And the homey environment, they say that it's the family life, seeing the kids running around and the kiddush and the real traditional.
So food's the connector. Food's what binds you.
It is a big.
Yeah.
It is.
Well,
It's a very big part.
It's nice, people, they're young and they're with a young crowd, but you get it's homogeneous that you only see 18-year-olds or 20-year-olds your whole life. You live with them, you study with them, and you want to see a little bit older, you want to see a little kid running around, which you don't see. In a normal neighborhood.
Yeah.
There's a senior citizen down the block, there's kids down the block, and that's life. And
How many years
Right.
have you been in Kingston?
3.5 now. August was 3 years.
So you don't really have much of an alumni group
Well,
yet.
funnily enough, the first year we were there was a very committed group who were sort of waiting for us to arrive, and we've really held a good connection with that alumni. We go to Toronto sometimes, once a year.
How far are you from
during
Toronto?
It's
About
2.5
an hour?
hours,
2.5
good
That's
timing.
close enough.
Yeah, it could take 3. There's often traffic, but it's usually about 2.5
Where are
hours.
more of the kids? The kids, most of them come from Toronto?
Most of the Jewish students are from Toronto. There's down south in Toronto, there's Thornhill in Toronto, but
Right.
they vary from all the areas. So when we go, we try and choose a central location to do an event. We usually do one Shabbat dinner in the winter, and then we do something, in the beginning of the summer.
A reunion kind of thing?
Yeah, for the alumni.
Because that's very important. One of the because it's such a large budget in terms of feeding all these folks, you do have to keep that revenue continually coming. My background is fundraising, so I'm sensitive to that. But
Yeah.
that's where that helps you get
Right.
through the current year by the people who benefited from you in previous years.
Absolutely.
Can contribute, and then once they start working. And
We've already seen how grateful they are and their support, and that is 100% the case.
Yeah. Now I got to tell you a quick story. I hope it's funny. But I was at a conference in northern New York, and we were with some county legislators from Ulster County in New York here, just a little south of Albany. And of course, we have Kingston, city of Kingston in Ulster County. And this guy happened to be a county legislator who represented Kingston. So we decided to take a drive to Kingston, Ontario. And we took and it's a city hall in Kingston, Ontario is like a boxed building. It's very white, is what I remember. And it has Kingston City Hall etched in over the entrance. And we took a picture of him in front of Kingston City Hall, and we were making a spoof about, you know, how they changed Kingston, New York City Hall, and it looks like this now. But we didn't quite have Photoshop at the time, so people kind of believed it.
So we did an event at the City Hall in Kingston.
No, you did?
Because we did a Shabbat 100, and at the time we were just doing all our events out of our house. And we could only seat about 50 people with removing all the furniture in the dining room and living room and really squeezed tight. So for this event, we wanted it to be a little bit more classy, and we rented out one of the rooms in Memorial Hall at City Hall, and it was beautiful.
And the mayor there was very welcoming to do that?
They rent it out.
They rent it
out.
But did the mayor come? Was he welcoming? No, he wasn't.
He didn't come. It wasn't a public event. It was just for our students.
I know, but still, if you're at the city hall, the mayor sometimes says, "Oh, I want to meet him."
You would have had Mark there. You would have had the mayor.
Maybe we should have invited him. Yeah, but that was also a week where alumni came back because it was our next year, and we made tables of students where they were hosts and they invited their friends, so it brought out a huge crowd. We ended up with 140 students, and that was our first Shabbat 100
wow,
3 years back.
That's terrific. You know, it's just
Yeah.
Do you take any have you taken any of the examples done from Chabad House locally here, and what the Rubens have done at Chabad House?
There is a network.
Have you gotten any ideas from Razy?
Right, so there's a network, and Razy really gives a tremendous amount on it. You know, there's other, so to speak, shluchos we're called, women that are doing this job, that are out there, and they've been there for many more years than I have. And everyone shares ideas, so you can post your question, looking for a new recipe for something, looking for a theme or whatever it is, and everyone posts, and Razy's added a lot. One of the programs that we've seen a lot of Chabad's doing, which we also did, called Loaves of Love. It's challah baking, where half the challah is donated.
Loaves of Love.
Yeah,
yes.
And that is a huge hit. Now, students that don't come out for anything else will come out to bake challah and donate to the women's shelter, to the youth shelter. And
wow.
It's a great
terrific.
program.
Let me ask you, you don't have the Canadian accent that I'm used to, so I take it you're not from Canada.
No.
So tell me a little bit about where you're from, how you got here, how you became related to Rabbi Simon, maybe, because you are his daughter-in-law.
So I was born and raised in London, England. The area is called Stamford Hill. It's pretty close to central London, 20 minutes or so. I stayed there all the way through till I was about 18 years old. And then I spent a year in Germany helping out a Chabad rabbi there, and then I moved to New York a couple of years later. And after a few years of living in the States, I met my husband, Rabbi Simon's son.
Right, truly.
Truly.
And then you went off to how did you get placed in Kingston? Tell the audience.
Well, I never wanted to go back to England. I don't like the rain too much. So I sort of wanted to stay in the States if I could. A job came up in Ottawa, and we felt like it was close enough to, the in-laws and New York City itself. So after that, that was a 2-year position, and we, this offer came up, being that we were in Chabad under an organization that was closely connected with the rabbi who was responsible for this student center.
So who made the connection or the shidduch where you got to Kingston?
Well, in Ottawa, there was a lot of feedback coming that Kingston students were asking for a Chabad rabbi, and that someone needed to go and do some things. So the Chabad rabbi at the universities, Carleton and Ottawa U, was traveling there, and he'd asked really to do some events with him. So Sri went there, did some events, and then we were sort of asked, would you take that on a long-term
You know, on one
position?
hand, that maybe Mark can attest to it, that Kingston's a beautiful city, and of course, my daughter-in-law, I do visit there.
Oh, she
But-
just made it more beautiful.
But on the other hand, you know, for a Jewish woman and an Orthodox Jewish woman, you know, it may be in a way like a desert, you know, because there's not the Jewish life. For example, you know, a Jewish family needs a Jewish day school.
Right.
So, I mean, you know, why don't you talk about
Yeah, the Jewish
life,
education
yeah,
opportunities there.
or kosher, and how to get kosher food,
Right.
and all these things that a Jewish family would need.
So there isn't that much available right now in Kingston. It's getting better. So right now the small store that's right in the middle of the student ghetto, they have kosher meat now. They never had that. So this is like all over the past year. They have first they only had certain bits of chicken when we moved there. Now they have you know, ready-made hamburgers and liver and
Is it
lots
to
of
your
different
prodding?
things.
I mean, you know, because we actually have the same issue in Albany. It's so much bigger that we have to go to the supermarket and say, hey, there is a market for it. Why don't you bring
Right.
it in? You'll see, you'll get business. So
Right, so they have matzah, they have, you know, the regular Jewish food, so to speak, there. But as far as Chabad, we have certain standards. There's certain breads that we'll only eat bread baked by a Jew, which isn't so available in Kingston. So most of the bread we eat, I'm baking, especially the challah every week. You know, if it's 100 people, I'm baking challah for 100 people. But I
How many
don't,
challahs is that? 10?
about 15.
15.
More usually, like just for Friday night will be 15. But I mean, the students love the challah and they come out for it, so I don't really see it as, you know, as a deficiency there. That there's no challah.
No, but you're filling that void.
Right.
That's terrific. But what are the Jewish education opportunities there?
So there's a Hebrew school run by the conservative shul now, which was previously Orthodox, recently
really?
changed over. So there is a Hebrew school there. It's on Sundays and Wednesday evenings. For a Jewish day school during the day doesn't exist. My children go to school online on the computer. It's a great school run by Chabad headquarters in New York City, and it is an online school that has a boys section, a girls section. My husband always jokes, you know, that even in the virtual classroom, Chabad, we keep the boys and the girls separate. But they do see each other actually and chat and socialize. There's breakout rooms. It's a great system. You know, it's
Isn't that special? I never knew that. Wow.
you can't explain it in a minute, but there's cameras where the teacher is seen, the students are seen 5 at a time, and there's blackboard area, or whiteboard call it, there's chat box, there's all kinds of tools that the kids can write and you know, use for answering questions.
What's the closest area to get kosher food? Do you have to go to...
Ottawa or Toronto?
Where?
Ottawa or Toronto. So it's
Really?
either 2 hours east or 2.5 hours west, or the opposite, yeah.
So what about coming into the States? Do you have a
So
bridge?
there's Syracuse.
Syracuse.
There is Syracuse, but I mean, there's much, much more available. Like we use Syracuse for an airport sometimes, like if we're
For what?
flying airport.
Yes.
Kingston has a very tiny airport. So if we're going to fly somewhere, it'll usually be out of Syracuse. But as far as kosher food, Toronto has so much available that we'll usually take the extra time and go there rather than, say, go to Ottawa, because you can get, you know, everything you're going to need. Loads of bakeries and restaurants, and yeah, everything's available there.
Well, that's good. And the Syracuse has a very active, Rabbi Rappaport in Syracuse,
Right.
a very active Chabad there, and maybe he can send a little boat over Lake Ontario to
You know,
you.
it's so close, but on the other hand, to go through a border, the customs is
Well, it's not that. There's no direct bridge across. You got to go through Watertown, right? And then you got to go to Watertown and then come west to Syracuse.
The problem is I'm British, and yeah, they don't like
Why
me
is that a
at the
problem?
border. The border,
Why?
they just don't let me in. It's like each time with the green card, you got to go in and fill it in, and it's complicated, as the rabbi's saying. It's easier just to stay within Canada.
Well, that's why you sent Shruly. That's a good reason for you not to make the trip.
Right.
No, so what's the... what seems to be the most difficult? I mean, you seem to have gotten over a lot of obstacles, but what seems to be the most difficult adjustment either coming from England, which I guess Canada is under the crown to some extent, at least on the money maybe, and then, or from the United States when you were here for a few years. What was more
Right. So I mean, I grew up in a big city. I loved New York City, which was busy. Moving to a quiet town, I find that it, you know, I mean, I'm busy within my own life, so I don't really notice it. So that to me hasn't been the largest adjustment. I find the traveling hard. Like, you know, it's very hard to travel whenever you need something. So being that there's no really great airport there, you know, you can't just get on a flight and fly to New York and get on a plane and fly to Florida or whatever it may be. You know, that for me is a small challenge. Other than that, I don't know. You know,
what I would ask you, you know, I mean, the audience can see that you're attractive and you're intelligent. What are the stigmas, for example, that you feel that maybe students or adults see that from an Orthodox woman? You know, do they have preconceived notions like, oh, what do you do? Just sit in the kitchen the whole day and, you know, again, you wouldn't be intelligent and all you do is take care of your kids. Do you get any of those kind of ideas from the
I give
students?
classes, I give study classes. I speak sometimes at Shabbat dinners, and I spend you know, as much time as I can meeting up with students on campus. So I think the students are aware of the fact that you know, as a religious woman, I'm still educated, and they have a lot of respect for me. But on the other hand, they do sometimes say, like, you know, I'm living, you know, my life in a different manner. I go to university. I'm gonna, you know, hopefully I'm gonna do my PhD, and I'm, you know, and what does it feel like to not, you know, have this career-minded, you know, attitude constantly? But it is pretty much a career, running a Chabad center.
It is.
And
absolutely.
I think that they come to respect and appreciate that. Certainly amongst Chabad Rebbitzins, so to speak, rabbis' wives, Chabad's rabbis' wives are very active. I'm co-director. All decisions I take part in. You know, I love the cooking and I do cook, but my husband cooks too. And the students see that we share this organization, and that is shared in both aspects of, you know, the responsibilities, and even when it comes to things like finances, everything is discussed, everything is run together, and you know, I've always told the students, you look way back in the Hasidic world, the men were the ones studying and their wives were running the stores to support them. So it's not, so to speak, that a Hasidic man is the one who gets the job and the woman is the one who sits back at home, you know, babysitting, so to speak. Being a mother is a really tremendous job, and I see that as a job and as you know, a huge responsibility we take to educate our children. It's like being a teacher, and being a teacher is a great job. I did that for many years before I moved to Kingston, and I continue to teach, you know. So the woman is definitely very involved and runs a large part of a Chabad center.
I just think that's so important, these preconceived notions that people have of, you know, Jewish life, Orthodox life of Orthodox women. It's one of the hardest things is that you were saying what's so difficult, breaking down the barriers that people have in their minds of, you know, well, I don't want to be that, you know, well, you know, I'm not that either. You know, what you think, you know, we are, we're not that way, you know, like saying you don't want to also be stuck in the kitchen the whole day doing nothing. What they don't want to be, you don't want to be also, so.
Right, although a woman does have the desire to nurture, and I love to cook because I know how much the students enjoy it, and when they are saying, like, you know, oh, I was so sick but I had to come out because it was going to be matzo ball soup, so you know, it's very rewarding, it really is. So I don't see it as a burden to provide for them.
What was the easiest hurdle to overcome, or the easiest adjustment for you?
Funnily enough, people were very surprised that I was so okay with having so many guests just invading my house. So Friday night, sort of the door unlocks and everyone just walks in, and it's just becomes the house. I mean, when we did it in the house, especially now we're in a different building, but it just became overflowing with noise and mess and like shoes everywhere, and I really loved it. I found it very energizing. So I think I surprised myself that I'd be worrying the whole week and stressed out about, I need to get the event up and how many people are going to come and do you think people will show? And then Friday night comes and the hustle and the bustle, and then when everyone would go, I would feel this very fulfilling feeling. It felt very warm in my house.
Wow, that's great.
We've really achieved something.
What size house do you have?
I think our house is 1,800 square feet. It's very small. Most of the house is a dining room and living room, which is why we bought this house. It was a very large open space for Kingston. It's very rare. We looked at a lot of places. And
It's a very old city. I mean, the inner city.
yeah,
I mean,
our
that
house is 160 years old. So, it's very tall.
Narrow.
Rooms built on top of each other, very narrow. The kitchen was sort of built on later, added onto the house.
So were you looking to do something like Razy did and the Rubens did with Chabad House and build something large like that?
We're hoping before the end of this year to buy a property. It's a little bit larger. And we're hoping to put in a commercial kitchen because we've been okayed for providing meals for the first years in residence, because right now they're eating sort of airplane meals, which are like ready-packed, vacuum-packed meals.
Who's eating that?
The students that keep kosher in residence in their first year.
At the school?
At the
At the
school.
school. Oh, they're eating airplane food.
Right.
Okay.
So that's something
I mean,
that...
you don't have a large airport, but they're eating airplane food.
So that's something we'd love to provide them with, is some fresh, good food. And so we're working
Sort of
on
have
that.
like a kosher kitchen like what they
Right.
have on University of Albany on Dutch Quad.
Yeah, I'm not so aware what they have,
Okay.
but yeah. I'll see.
I was just, this has to be some sort of major successes that you might have had so far. I mean, in terms of not just the finances, but the goodwill and the, just the good nature that you exude.
All right. Well, we've also started a little bit with the community, and we definitely see that just being there's a certain acceptance that Chabad as a general I see has, that people really respond to, and we definitely feel like we've connected on a very big scale with a lot of people. For me, personally, like some of our students that came to us met, say, a boy and girl met at Queen's, even if they didn't meet, within our house, but they're engaged, they're getting married, so that, that's very pleasant to see, and we love to take part in
Mark,
that.
it's very important that you say major successes.
No.
But I think the beauty of Chabad and these Jewish students is like, okay, now they didn't know anything about Judaism. I mean, you do have some people, and then, you see, we have a number of people, they're totally Jewish. And just even
The
small things which are not,
it really
I mean, they
is.
may not seem like big success stories, but just, hey, two Jewish people meet and they
Yeah.
marry.
And we're
That's the majority of Jewish people today are intermarried. So just that they meet on campus
Yeah,
and
it's huge.
they just feel to
It's
be
not small, it's
married.
huge.
When
a Jewish
I
couple
didn't
get
have my
married.
question written out, and I was struggling for the words, so I said major success, and I just meant
Yeah.
any success. But I want to, I got to tell you a little anecdote. Back probably a good 15 years ago, there was a president of University of Albany, Karen Hitchcock, and she got into some trouble, and she got dismissed from her position as president of University of Albany. And guess where she went? Queens College. So she was there for.
She was the president.
She was president of Queens College.
Queen's University.
It was university, not the college?
Where? In Kingston?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's Queen's University in Kingston. There's Queen's College is in New York City.
No,
And-
this is the university
Right,
then
yeah.
in Kingston.
Yeah.
And so she went there and lasted a few years, and now she's back in Albany. And doing something, in terms of economic growth and economic
It's a
development.
very respected university. It's the third top university in Canada. A lot of the children that
Well, I didn't realize how well respected it was until she went. I'd never heard of it. And then Yeah, I figured that she did something so bad here at University of Albany, she got, sent there, like Siberia.
That's a great university, and the students there say that, one of the reasons that the students there are so smart is because most of the students there have to be staying away from home. So the parents have to be able to afford it. They've always been able to afford to educate them well. It's a lot of very smart students there.
I was in the Grand Canyon hiking a few years ago, and I was going from one north rim to the south rim, and we were on the trail, and you say hello to people, you're just very friendly, walking around. There aren't very many people around doing this. And there were these two girls, and I was with a bunch of friends, three other friends, and we were walking, and we just said hello, and we said, "Where are you from?" And they said, "Oh, we're from Kingston, Ontario." And I said, "Oh, they were students from Queen's University." Of all places. I had to go to Colorado. I had to go to Grand Canyon in Arizona, I guess, to see to meet someone. Then I told them about Karen Hitchcock, and they said, "Oh, you sent her to us. Oh, I can't believe what you sent to us." So in the middle, I was there on vacation. I wasn't there to find someone to comment on Karen Hitchcock. But had I had my microphone, that would have been a good interview. So anyhow, I just think that what you're doing is absolutely terrific there, and it sheds some light on how, because we have, 8 Chabad centers around the Capital District, and it's just something to see how special it is, and it's not easy to, really create an environment that gets people excited about, their religion and culture and ethnicity.
Well, especially that, but again, like you say, even people, everything's relative, really, because New York City say, "Oh, in Albany, what's over there? No kosher restaurant, you're in the boonies." And we say, well, we feel good. We have a nice, beautiful school, the Maimonides school. We can send our kids. Yeah. And, like you say, we have friends to be with, so here, Lisa, your level, you can talk about a little bit at the level of the...
And that's what my website is about, jbiztechvalley.com, is to bring everything under one umbrella and to show people that we do have something special here. And we have over 20,000 Jews in the Capital District. How many Jews are in the Kingston, Ontario area?
Besides the students.
It's very small.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to remember.
Yeah, but
it keeps shrinking.
Is it in the hundreds? Is it 100?
I think there's about, they say 300 Jewish families that were affiliated with the Orthodox Shul at the time, and it was Orthodox. That's just Orthodox. And they say...
There must be other people too.
For sure there is. There's the Reform Shul.
Yeah.
I'm not sure about numbers exactly, but it's definitely in the thousands.
Oh, it is? Oh,
yeah,
okay.
when they do the menorah lighting, they get out at least 1,000 people to
that's
menorah
great.
lighting.
You
and
see,
everyone
take
says,
lessons.
and everyone says, where do they come from? They come out of the cracks because they're not affiliated with anything anywhere. But there's got to be Jews there. They are everywhere, and there's real estate there. So that's where that's the business in Kingston, and it's quite a Jewish business. So,
we'll give her your blessing.
All right. Well, Esti is my journalist, so therefore she gets a double blessing over here.
Special blessing.
Well, we're really impressed. People, we're out. People say, "Oh, Rabbi, you're out into Albany and Delmar," but especially someone who's kind of by yourself, and no one's really by themselves. But listen, day to day, there's no school for your children, and so. You're doing a lot of good work, so I can attest to that things are growing, and it's a home away from home for so many hundreds of Jewish students. It's something that's almost like a lifesaver for them, because, you get a student, people don't realize you're away from home, and a lot of people come from traditional homes. There's Friday night, that they deal with their parents, and now no parents, no Jewish environment, and you're all alone, and that's a lot where the troubles come from. The Jewish troubles of intermarriage and assimilation, because you're there for 4 years with a master's degree, 5-6 years, and these are formative years of their lives, and they grow up with nothing. And here there's an anchor that there's something special. There's Jewish life. It's alive. It's well. And like I say, young people are into it. It's not just for old people. Of course, I'm 29 years old. Just remember that. And it's just for younger people like yourself, that, again, like I say, you can be attractive and intelligent and, with it, so to speak, and doing nice programs, exciting programs.
Keep up the good work.
Keep it going. Not only keep it up, but grow. That's a major thing. Grow. And you have any plans for the future? I mean, you're talking about being in your home, or so this is a bigger building.
The kosher kitchen idea is something that we've been really putting a lot of effort into. Food really brings people closer. It makes a strong connection.
Absolutely.
So it's a big thing for us.
Especially for me.
Yeah.
I'll come to Kingston just for food.
And the building will be nice. Hopefully, you'll get a bigger size building that'll attract more people too. People like a big building. I mean, a lot of people, like you say, like your personal home. We have that also,
So
and some people, I see that beautiful building you have. We've
been now in an old Blockbuster that one of the Jewish members of the community owns, and he's kindly allowed us to use its space. And because it's a commercial building, we've sectioned off some areas in it, it's less warm. So we're looking forward to having a home again. That's what we're looking for. We can have a bigger space within a home, and we can bring them in.
Put the two together. Thank you very much, Esti, for being on Jewish View, and give you our best blessings.
This is special. Thank you.